This is Anna Patterson with the North Carolina Housing Coalition. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our housing call and for your patience as we're a couple of minutes late getting going. Without further ado, I will turn it over to our Director of Housing Policy, Stephanie Watkins-Cruz.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. Sorry about those technical difficulties. I hope you all are having a great week so far. Thank you for your patience with us. We have a lot to talk about today. So before we jump in, I just want to kick it off by saying a big thank you to all the folks that participated in Housing Day last week and all the related events. Just to give you a sense of how many people came out and how many people engaged in this event and in the events related to it, we had almost 160 people register, about 117 people, all of those that registered attended, so they showed up on Tuesday, and over 110 meetings were scheduled. Half of the state was represented, and so 49 out of the 100 counties were represented in terms of the people who registered and participated, and we had a number of folks that were actually representing statewide groups. It was really, really refreshing and also affirming to see so many people from across the state. And it wasn't just affirming because of who was there in terms of geography, but it was also really cool to see so many parts of our housing ecosystem represented. As many of you know, this event was a co-hosted event with us, the North Carolina Housing Coalition, Habitat for Humanity of North Carolina, and the North Carolina Coalition on Homelessness. Three parts of our ecosystem, three statewide organizations. We had several developers, we had land trusts, we had service providers, we had, of course, several Habitat affiliates show up, we had local governments show up, we had practitioners and advocates participate in this day. And it was just really, really clear that despite being on different parts of the housing ecosystem and sometimes having to really engage on different sides of the housing conversation, that we all believe that housing is critical. And that's why everybody showed up. So thank you, thank you, thank you again for everybody that registered, for those that were able to attend, and a big thank you to the staff and the elected officials that made time for us on Tuesday. It was actually a really heavy housing themed week last week. The North Carolina Realtors were having their housing day on the very same day, which I thought, again, was wonderful. There was a very heavy housing themed week, and I think that's even better when more pieces of our housing ecosystem can come together on the same day and can talk about this. It was a really big deal. So I'm really, really glad about how it turned out. And looking ahead towards the future, for those that registered and or attended, so even if you registered but you weren't able to make it, we're going to be linking a feedback survey in the call notes for you, and we would really love for you to fill this survey out by April 25th. This will help us learn what really went well, what we might want to change for next time, how we can maybe bring in other collaborators, and what future advocacy days and convenings can look like. Another opportunity for engagement that I want to lift up, I've had the great opportunity of hosting a student named Joy Bowling from ECU. She's earning her master's in science and health systems leadership, and her focus has been looking at the intersection of health and housing. So for the past year, since August, we've been hosting her virtually. She was also at the Housing Day last week. And so many of you are going to get a survey, but we're going to include that survey in the call notes. This is a part of her capstone, and it's a survey really looking at how integral health might be to how you operate in your housing practice and how much it comes up. And this is a part of, although it's a part of her capstone, we are going to be using some of her data at the coalition and her findings to try and better develop resources that look at the intersection of health and housing and how we try and connect those sectors a bit better. So 2 survey links, one for the folks that registered and or attended Housing Day. Please fill that out by April 25th. And the second, fill it out by April 17th. This is for looking at the intersection of health and housing from the perspective of housers. There's another one for nurses. So obviously that one's not linked here, but if you have 5 minutes, we really appreciate you filling it out by the 17th. Moving on to some of the content that's really taking our attention today and will likely be taking a lot of our time in the coming days. So HUD actually scrubbed their website at the end of March, and they've removed about 90% of the content that were there and cited poor user experience and cost savings as the reason why. We're bringing this to y'all's attention because this means that data that we often rely on throughout the housing ecosystem has been scrubbed from the website. We're working on trying to understand what information, what data sets in particular have been taken offline. And although we already have some of those data sets that we use consistently, we are working with some of our national partners. We've already been reaching out to them this morning about making sure that we have access to the data sets and resources we rely on consistently. And we know what our organizations have been doing work for the past several months to kind of save and preserve those housing data sets proactively. Just want to say, if you were a part of our, federal webinar, impact webinar a few weeks ago, or you've heard any of our housing calls in the recent weeks when we talk about some of the chaos happening at the federal level, this loss of data is one of the things that we warned about and that we were scared about. There are several organizations working for months now to kind of proactively save data. And so when we kind of nail down what data we know for sure has been lost, what data we have and what data we need to access, we will let you know. But I highly, highly recommend that you all kind of centralize your data, try and save it all to one place, make sure folks have multiple copies, and just keep an eye on this. Make sure you take care of your data. On Thursday, moving on for additional federal updates, the House adopted the Senate's budget resolution, and this resolution outlines about $1.5 trillion in spending cuts. So we're looking at a pretty dangerous upcoming budget for housing and community development because we know a lot of the spending cuts are on the domestic spending and non-defense side. The White House fiscal year 26 proposed budget request is expected to be released in mid-May, and we're expecting to see an outline of the budget then sometime this month. On the more positive side, the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act, or the AHCIA, was reintroduced last week. And it was reintroduced with 117 bipartisan co-sponsors representing over 30 states and over a quarter of the House of Representatives. We're going to include some links in the call notes for you to kind of reintroduce why this act matters, why it continues to come back. But ultimately, this is an act, a piece of legislation that would strengthen our country's largest way of creating and preserving affordable housing. It would finance 1.6 million more affordable rental homes in the next decade than would be otherwise possible without these changes. So we're going to link a few different things in the call notes for you, the sort of reintroduction overview, but we're also going to include a link that shows you the differences between the Affordable Housing Credit Improvement Act that was introduced in the last Congress and this Congress, and then also different forms of support that we've seen so far. And our Senator Tillis is among those that supports this legislation. Moving on to state and local updates. The Governor's Advisory Committee on Western North Carolina Recovery met yesterday virtually on April 14th, and they discussed quite a bit over the 2-hour meeting. Some of the main themes that they discussed yesterday included Blue Ridge Parkway restoration, and they received a presentation and learned about the efforts going on with the National Park Service and the hopes that they have to have the stretch from the Great Smoky Mountain National Park to Mount Mitchell reopened in the fall. They also focused quite a bit on small business recovery and employment, and they cited $1.8 billion in economic loss from lost revenue and operations from October 2024 through December 2024. And it was just really clear as these numbers continue to be cited, something that I don't want people to miss is when you see these numbers about small businesses and job loss and economic loss, don't forget to connect it back to housing. This means means this lost revenue and this lost operations means people's livelihoods have been impacted. People's abilities possibly to maintain their homes, to afford their homes, to move back into their homes, to stay in their communities. So make sure that we're not separating these issues from one another because they're very much connected. Another key issue that is, very, very relevant, of course, was debris removal, and it's connected to wildfire mitigation. There have been a lot of wildfires plaguing the western part of our state in recent weeks, and so tree debris will continue. They kept citing and talking about the connection between tree debris removal and how that is really an increasing priority because without that, the risk of increased wildfire for the next 10 to 15 years is going to only increase. In additional news in that sense, FEMA actually declined the state's request for 100% cost share for Hurricane Helene recovery. And if the ruling stands, all categories would return to a 90% cost share, but the state is going to appeal this. And so this is something that is important for us to lift up because as the state braces for tariff impacts, if this 100% Helene cost share isn't actually approved, it's going to really take up quite a bit of the recovery dollars. Additional North Carolina General Assembly news. So the bill filing deadline in the House was at the end of last week. And so there's actually been over 1,700 bills that have been filed. And we are still tracking and updating our bill tracker and making sure that we're kind of shoring up everything and reconciling what bills are the most relevant to our policy agenda and what we want to make sure that you are aware of. One of the things that we're watching really closely that came out last night, and among a few other things, is the Senate's proposal of the budget. It is a 439-page document. At first read, at first glance, there is a lot of language in the bill, in the proposed budget around Hurricane Helene recovery, as well as some changes in land use and zoning. We're going to continue to dive into it and analyze this really long document. And as always, we promise to release a sort of deeper analysis and compare it to the governor's proposal, which was released a few weeks ago. A few other things that we're watching this week. The House Standing Committee on Housing and Development is meeting on Wednesday, and they're considering several bills. A few in particular that we're looking at, House Bill 306, Affordable Housing for Local Employees, and House Bill 765, Local Government Development Regulations Omnibus, and then House Bill 627, Regulation of Accessory Dwelling Units. So these are a few different pieces of legislation that we're looking at, and we'll be in the building kind of listening to discussion. I had some great conversations last week with Representative Zinger and Representative Lopez around HB 765 and some of the different benefits that it would have for housing. And so looking forward to continuing to analyze and dive into that bill and see how we can ensure that there is more positive impact. Last week, we also highlighted two bills that we're still trying to watch and keep an eye on as they move. House Bill 781, Unauthorized Public Camping and Sleeping, and House Bill 437, Established Drug-Free Homeless Service Zones. House Bill 437 is being heard this morning when the House convenes at 11 a.m. To be voted on, so we will keep you all posted on that. In terms of events, reports, and resources, lifting up a few particular events. I can't believe that it's already almost time. It's a month away. Our Bringing It Home conference is happening May 15th through the 16th at the McKimmon Center in Raleigh. To attend in person, it is $125, and virtual will be $65, and registration links and information will be included in the call notes. The KHEC conference, which if you have not been, is a wonderful conference. I've always enjoyed it the last two times that I've been able to go. It's happening on Tuesday, June 3rd through Wednesday, June 4th at the Raleigh Convention Center. Registration is free, but the deadline to register is May 19th. So if you are in the light tech development world, property management, interested in development, lending of that nature, a housing nerd like myself, I found it to be a really great convening, not only from the learning perspective, from the networking piece as well. On May 8th, so prior to that, Prior to both our Bringing It Home conference and KHEC, Faith in Housing nonprofit community mixer is being held by the City of Charlotte's Faith in Housing Initiative on May 8th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Roos. So there will be a registration link in the call notes for you there as well. There are a lot of pieces in the news coming out. We had some great coverage. Thank you to the members of the press that attended our press conference last week at Housing Day. So we have some coverage on that and on the collaborations and all the advocates that came out for that day. We also want to lift up some new programs that are catching our attention. So the City of Durham is launching a new program to offer loans for accessory dwelling units. And so check out that link in our In the News section. As always, if you are interested in something in particular or you want to make sure that we cover something, please don't hesitate to reach out. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.